Nigerians, both at home and abroad, we should be tired of saying we are tired, because the government of the day has failed us catastrophically. That's not what actually we're here for, but we should be tired of saying we are tired. Now, the issue is this. This is a security problem in a country that is supposed to be one of the leading powers of Africa, that cannot secure, that cannot guarantee the security of our citizens. Neither can the government guarantee if our lives and properties. At the beginning of every year, billions of naira is being budgeted for quite a lot of things, and nothing actually is being done with the money. And this is the situation we find ourselves today. Now, this is a security problem, as I've said. Let me quickly go through what happened in some parts of Nigeria in the past concerning security-related matters, and how these issues were handled. I will start from Edo State. Banditry did not start today in Nigeria, but it came to limelight immediately after the Civil War. When the war ended, there were a lot of guns in circulation, and some miscreants took it upon themselves to be dispossessing people of their properties, and that's what it resulted into full-scale armed robbery nationwide. The then head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, promulgated the Armed Robbery and Firearms Decree, stipulating death penalty for anybody convicted of armed robbery. And that was how they were able to curtail the situation considerably till of late. But since the present administration of Muhammadu Buhari came to office, in fact, before then, actually, there has been banditry, but it escalated when he assumed office. Now, in the case of Benin City, I remember vividly while I was growing up there was a boy they called Lawrence Anini. He had his gang of miscreants terrorizing the entire state. Now, while this was going on, the nation was alarmed because they've never experienced such a thing in living memory then. As a result of that, modalities were put in place to get these boys apprehended, and eventually they were ruthlessly dealt with. And I remember also, I think it was on Valentine's Day 1987, at a Kenwa firing range, Philip Iwebeluwa, also known as Molly, Friday Okpama, known as Ofege, Deputy Superintendent of Police George Yamu, John Bulahuwa, known as alias JB, Bernardo B, who's a sign writer, and I think 4 others were publicly executed by firing squad. A few weeks later, Lawrence Anini, Mondo Subo, and others were executed. It was Justice James Omar Agege, who sentenced the first batch of robbers to death, while the second batch was sentenced by a judge they call Amisa something, I can't remember his full names. So that was how that issue was settled. The interesting thing about it is the Benin people themselves, resident in Benin, who took it upon themselves to assemble these boys and make sure they face a firing squad. The leader of the group was, leader of the group that eventually arrested Anini was one police officer called Pari Osayande. He was sent from Lagos to map out the modalities to get them apprehended. The situation was terribly bad to the extent that the commissioner of police for Bende State in those days, Kashmir Kagbosu, was badly shot at Ring Road in Benin City by these Anini boys. Then the federal government sent Deputy Inspector General of Police, Christopher Mebe, to find out what was going on. He narrowly escaped death, but his driver was killed, and the motor car he was driving was snatched, and sold, I think, for 200 naira to one man they call Alaji ZZ. That man is still at large up to today. Anyway, the Benin themselves, despite the fact that it is their children who were involved in this dastardly act, they never spared them. They made sure they faced the law in the interest of peace, both in Benin City, Bende State of then, and Nigeria at large. That is for Benin City. Now let's go to the West. In Yoruba land, in the 70s, there was a self-styled armed robber called Dr. Ishola Oyenusi. Self-styled doctor, Ishola Oyenusi. He was a terror, just like Anini, who existed years after him. The Yorubas, they got together, map out modalities to get this man apprehended, and they made him face the firing squad at Lagos Bar Beach. There was an unfortunate incident in that case, that execution, in Ishola Oyenusi's execution. During the investigation, there was a miscarriage of justice. There was a man they call Joel Amamieye, the personnel manager of Wahum Industries in Ikeja, Lagos. Because of the personal misunderstanding he had with his workmates, they roped him into the matter, and the man was condemned to death, and he faced a firing squad. I think it's from Patani in Rivers State. It was an unfortunate incident, and that matter has not been addressed up to today. This thing happened over 50 years ago. Then in the East, there was a group of miscreants. They called themselves Kotoko 6 or 7. I can't remember the exact appellation. The Igbos themselves, they got together, they rounded them up, arranged them before the tribunal, they found them guilty, and they were executed. That is a brief summary of efforts that have been made to combat banditry in southern Nigeria. But since this problem started in the north, it has been, people are mesmerized over the way the northerners are covering up for their people, maybe on the grounds of religion or tribe, or I don't know. Now, let me make some points very clear. They are of the opinion that these boys are hiding in Sambisa forest. The Air Force cannot locate them in the forest, so for that reason, there's very little or nothing they can do. And I want to demonstrate right now that that is a blatant lie. This shows a sort of complicity between the security forces and this so-called, Boko Haram or whatever they call themselves. Now, on the screen right now, you see the map of Sambisa Forest, the area they call Sambisa Forest.
Yes, sir. Before you go ahead and show us the map, let's quickly bring Mr. Eredia Osakwe.
Okay.
Sir, this issue of insecurity prevailing in Nigeria, especially the Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, Mr. Akpojeve just gave an example of the past incident, how Nigerians themselves were able to tackle the issue of a group of terrorists in the country. How come this Boko Haram have been existing for a very long time that it's like there is a political kind of undertone here? Otherwise, I don't think a terrorist group, they are minorities. They can exist for this long in a country, a big country like Nigeria. So your insights, sir, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Sorry,
yes, now, yes, okay now. Yes, once more, I want to thank you very much for having me, and I really appreciate to be part of this program today. The truth of the matter, I listened keenly to what Uncle just said, and he's quite right. When it comes to the issue of insecurity, as we see it today, it's quite different from what Uncle enumerated before. Nowadays, they are more sophisticated, they are more powerful with soft and light weapons and even stronger weapons with which they perpetrate their crimes. Basically, it's unfortunate that the giant of Africa has been dwarfed with the level of insecurity that we are confronted with today. It's most unfortunate too that the system is gradually imbibing this idea. Insecurity is a very serious problem which requires the intervention of the government. And I think, ramifications, the government, it rests on the shoulders of the government to tackle insecurity. But it's quite unfortunate that today, in the system that we are, insecurity has become a common norm, and people can die at will and nobody cares. I remember vividly what Sani Abacha said of blessed memory that, I'll say so, that when there's insecurity or there's something, of a crime in the country that lasts for 24 hours, the hand of the government or perhaps lackluster attitude of the government could be one of the reasons why it will perpetrate. So basically, all arrows of accusations are actually pointed at the government because they are the people in charge. They should be in charge in tackling insecurity. Our responsibility is to inform the police if we find any, scrupulous people around us, or if there is anything happening within our little confines. But the government has the imprimatur to tackle insecurity to the fullest. And now that is happening in this very magnitude, it calls for a concern. And this concern is not only directed now to only Nigeria. It has spread across the West African region. And like what Uncle said, that in the past, they were able to nip all these crimes in the bud, or perhaps do something drastic after the fact. But nowadays, I think some people are treated with kid gloves, and that is why we have this preponderance of crime, in Nigeria. Like what I used to say in my, late few moments when I converse with my friends, I tell them that why be it that in the Sambisa forest, as we all know, it's not a cave, it's not a rock like in Tora Bora. But in Tora Bora, I remember vividly during the era of this Al-Qaeda, that even the American commandos, they infiltrated and they busted that place, and they all fled away. That was what led to the disappearance of Osama bin Laden, and he went to Abbottabad in Pakistan, where they eventually caught him, and he was killed. So I don't know what's happening, that we even have these common drones nowadays that even children can afford, that the government cannot see from maybe 1,000 kilometers away. Something happened in Iraq, and when Soleimani was killed, he was killed through a drone. So I wonder why Nigeria will have this problem, and we look at ourselves as the giant of Africa, but this security has dwarfed us, and it appears that Nigeria don't even have relevance when it comes to combating crime or insecurity. It's quite unfortunate, and this is just my opinion about it. All levels of accusation, I think, are pointed to the government for their lackluster attitude. I think they should be more tactical, effective, and we are very convinced that the government, the resources that they have economically, I think they can manage the situation. But the way it is happening now is quite unfortunate and pathetic. So this is what I see in it.
Yes, exactly. When a terrorist group can exist in a country for more than 3 months, which means there is a political undertone. Otherwise, they are minority. They are minority. How can they exist for this long in Nigeria? So, Mr. Sani, we are discussing about Boko Haram, why they are still existing in Nigeria, and why they have been there for a very long time. The weakness of the government to tackle the issue of Boko Haram in the country over these years. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon or good evening. Elder statesman from Gambia and the other fellow in the platform. But there's something that is missing from his narration. He talked about Anini and Kutuku and the rest. Those are just common criminals. But when you come to Boko Haram, which he didn't deal with it very properly, Boko Haram is an international organization, criminal organization. That we see them fighting America itself. We see them attacking Britain. We see them how they take over Iraq and Iraq. They're all the same group of people. So it's making mockery of the whole statement for comparing them with the cases of Anini and the rest. And not to, because there's no light here, Nigeria, I'm sorry, because maybe I might run out of current. Let's look at it now. When Boko Haram started, first we say they started from Metasini, the north, and they were dealt with precisely. Then element of them, the son of them, form another group which you now call Boko Haram. Mohammed Yusuf. Mohammed Yusuf was arrested, in fact, extrajudicially dealt with. And most of them were dealt with, and then they run into the Sambisa. So this is the proper, I don't want to put in the proper perspective. And they have alliance with ISIS. What I mean, ISIS, this international body that are fighting nations, countries like Iraq, Iran, even Syria. There were problems there. And when you talk about Osama bin Laden, which is the same kind of network, even America were looking for many years before to get him down. So if you put this in the proper perspective, the elder statement did not do justice to the statement, as he said. It's unfortunate. A lot of them have been killed. 100, 200, 300, you can't counting continue. So it's improper for anybody to say that there's a conspiracy or support from the north. For instance, in Kanu, the first, after Maiduguri, they tried Kanu, and I can tell you because by my profession, I'm a medical radiographer, every evening in the hospital I stay, we see army bringing corpse of Boko Haram, 10, 15, 10, 15. In fact, I understand the format which they used to do. Because you see, anyhow they render them up, you are going to see 6 men, 1 woman. 6 men, all of them dead. So it's improper, and we're not doing justice to the statement for saying it's
Mr. Sani, nobody is saying that the Northerners are supporting Boko Haram. When you look at the issue of Boko Haram in the country, it's affecting the Northerners more than other regions in Nigeria. So how can we be blaming the Northerners for supporting Boko Haram, of which they are the people that are being affected by this terror?